Hey guys, this is Zach Taylor, Tenor 2 in Luke's, coming to you from the comfort of my quarantine apartment. I'm going to bring you guys a quick Dan Forrest 101, how to sing Good Night Dear Heart like you're an expert. So, cool, you've learned the notes, you've learned the rhythms, you've learned the text, yada yada. So what comes from here is the next step of music learning, which is really taking that piece of music, that notes, the words on the page, and really bringing it to life. And for me, the first thing that I have to do, especially for a piece like this, is figure out exactly what I'm singing. This piece, really beautiful, simple piece by Dan Forrest, was after Dan Forrest's brother and his stepsister, or sister-in-law, lost their child that they were about to adopt from Ethiopia. They had been looking at pictures of her for months, getting ready to pick her up, and then she died suddenly, and it was obviously extremely devastating. And so Dan Forrest thought back to this poem that Mark Twain wrote, and then put on the grave of his daughter, who died at 24, also very suddenly. He took this Mark Twain poem and said it in a single night, and thus we have the piece that we have here. So the text seems very simple at face value, but when you apply that kind of meaning, that kind of takes this to the next level. Like, man, every single word I'm singing has this kind of incredible weight to it. And so that's what I think really brings that to life. And the audience will know if you know what you're singing. So next, we kind of go into the more technical aspects of things. Good Night Dear Heart, you have a couple of words that may have some room for interpretation and such. The biggest one of which is one that us and Luke's have had to kind of beat down and make sure we're all on the same page for, is the word good. So in this piece, you'll have a tendency to say good night with like a very closed oo vowel when you sing it, because that's just kind of what we do naturally as singers. But in order to unify and to make sure that the words are understood, for the purpose of this, we're going to say good night. Good night, dear heart. The other things we want to make sure we're not doing in terms of vowels are clipping the diphthongs and make sure that the diphthongs are actually, sung super beautifully. So when you have like lie light, you don't want to go lie light. You want to go lie light. You want to just kind of give the second part of the diphthong a little kiss at the end. Same goes for the other diphthongs in this piece, like night and shine. We want to also make sure we're kissing the consonants. So the way I kind of think about the consonants in this piece is you want to be understood, obviously, but you also don't want to push a bunch of air out every time you speak a consonant. You want it to be gentle and tender like the poem is supposed to be. So on a phrase like warm summer sun, shine kindly here. Warm summer sun, shine kindly here. Something like that, where the consonants are there and present, but they're not beaten down. For dynamics, I think when you have a piece that's as tender and emotional as this, you want the dynamics to come out and kind of lead the phrasing, lead the lyricism of this piece, and make it the beautiful piece of music that it's supposed to be. So, for example, on the second page, after we finish the introduction, you don't just want warm summer, you want that kind of gentle tenderness through the crescendo. So you have something more like warm summer sun, shine here. You want all of these dynamics to be as expressive and beautiful as they can be. The other thing I would tend to say on this note is think about why you repeat text when you do. So like in that same spot, the tenors go warm summer sun. You really want those repeats of text to have a purpose, to have a meaning. A little technical note, as tenors, we will consistently have this tendency to try and push the tone to be hero tenors, we're the ones who can hit the high C's and everybody's like, yeah, woo! But when you're singing choral music, especially for a piece like this, you want your tone to be as, blendable as possible. And so for me, what that means is that when I start getting into the higher part of my register, instead of going, yeah, and pointing everything forward and trying to get like as much volume as possible, you want to think of the sound kind of just lifting. inside of your throat. So for example, the green sod above line on the first page, instead of green sod above, lie, lie. Yeah, sure, it's okay. But when you have something sung more like green sod above, lie, light, the tone is more lifted, and then thus it will blend better. And also, it's going to be a lot easier on the chords. So yeah, just a quick recap on what we've talked about. We talked about the text meaning. We talked about vowel unification. We talked about kissing consonants. We talked about dynamics and lyricism and phrasing a little bit. And then we talked about lifting the sound and the tone to make it as easy as possible and also as beautiful as possible. So that's about all I have for you guys today. I can't wait to see how this turns out. I'm really excited to see all your videos. Thank you guys so much for doing this, and have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful quarantine. Make the most out of it. Mwah. Bye, all.